Hey you guys, so this is a squash plant. I'm going to show you how to grow your own food. I got a lot of other things. I got some flowers, and back here I got some Swiss chard back there. But let's try showing you how to grow some beans and my method about how to grow it. So I'll show you here in a second. So I actually like to do the baggy method. So this is summer squash zucchini. And so over here, you can see that they're actually starting to sprout. And so when they get to that, it's a little bit late for this. They're getting a little too long, but usually I like to plant them when the roots are a little bit more shallow. These seeds generally are alive now, and I don't have to waste my time on planting seeds that are not alive. So these are the things that you'll need. You need some scissors. Obviously, you need some seeds. Burpee's okay to get by from. I like these sandwich bags, these Ziploc bags. They're nice size. You need like a paper towel, stapler, and I have this laying around. It's just an easy way to spray. You can just do one of those hand spray bottles, and so just mix. See, I put a gallon, and then I just put maybe like 3 or 4 teaspoons of hydrogen peroxide to help it out. But you don't need hydrogen peroxide. You can just use water. So let me show you the process. So I like to line up my plastic, I like to line up my paper towel along the plastic, and so I'll fold it this way, I'll fold it this way to make it nice and to fit, kind of like you put a letter in an envelope. So there you go, I folded this nice and flat. I like to have this to be the place, so here are the edges here. I like to have the nice surface facing up, and I'll put it inside the Ziploc bag. So there you go. Now it's important that I actually had to cut off a little bit edge here because I didn't want the paper to get in the way from snapping with this here. So I just took some scissors and just cut off the edge there. So now with your hand spray bottle, or you can get this guy, what you do is just spray the inside, and I think that will help. Okay, so I sprayed in there. And sorry, I only have one hand, so I can actually show you what I'm doing at the same time. So it got wet, and so you don't want to have it sopping wet, but you just want to have enough to where you can see that it's evenly wet. And so I just kind of pat it down on both sides, and I just make sure that there's a dry spot there, here, and then so I'll just go ahead and back and I'll spray it in there just to make sure, and there's a little bit dry spot in there. So I'll just go ahead and spray it a little more to make sure it's evenly wet. Okay, so I got this evenly wet now, and so what I'm going to do now is just take my seeds and cut them open. I like to cut them with scissors right here, just because you're going to use this package anyway, so I'm not going to save the seeds if there's extra. I'm just going to use the whole bag and pour it in there. So I just cut the whole edge like this, and it's really important that you actually, when you go to close it, that you actually give some air. So I like to keep this open, and then I don't try to flatten it out anymore with the bag. I like to keep some air in there. So let me show you. Okay, so I don't know if you can see, but I have some air in there. Let's see from this angle. So I poured the seeds in there and I close it up, and they're all like lumped up together, which makes them, when they sprout, it makes it a little more difficult to get out. And so, if you can tell here that they're all bunched up, and it's a little bit difficult to get them out. So what I try to do is to even them out. And so here, let me do this real second. So it's fine like that. I mean, I just kind of did this and let it spread out. And so, and a lot of times they end up falling. What you end up doing is that you move them back. You'll check on them every once in a while, and then you'll notice that they'll get to the bottom here. So it's fine. So what I like to do is not allow the roots, when they germinate, I don't want them to get into the piece of paper, because it's a pain to try to tear the roots out of the paper, because the roots, they'll grow down. So I want them to grow into the plastic instead, because it doesn't really go into the plastic. So what I do is I just flip it around like this, okay, and so that the roots will grow down. And what I'll do, here's my empty package, and because I like to reuse these plastic bags, I'll just staple it here, and let me do that right now. Okay, so I took this and I stapled it right at the very edge of the plastic. So not to, let's see here. I try not to staple both sides. I just try to staple one side of it, and so, all right, so I can still get my fingers in there. Actually, I made a mistake. I actually stapled both sides, but that's okay. Oh well. And so, and again, I try to have them even. And there you go. So now I keep this. They say that you want to keep this in a nice warm area, like on top of your refrigerator. I find that if I do that, I end up forgetting about them, and so I like to have them on the countertop. It's like it's 70 degrees generally, and so it's fine. So I have them in here, and so these are all my different seed, different peas, and I'll do flowers as well. And so you can actually germinate quite a few, and the ones that do germinate the fastest. So like here, I try to pick the one that actually is the fastest growing, and I'll put them in a pot with some potting mix, and I'll show you what I do with these because I'm gonna have to actually take these out. All right, so I got myself a cup, and if you decide to use like a plastic cup, it's important that you drill holes in the bottom. And so like the one that I had prior outside, I'll take it upside down and I'll take a drill and just drill just a hole through the bottom of your plastic cup. I'll show you an example. So I have these like Dixie cups here. You can take a bunch of them. You know, a lot of times people throw them away after a use, but I just take a drill and I just drill a hole. Didn't have to be pretty, right? Because like that hole's not very pretty. So, and I'll use these a lot of times, and sometimes I'll use like the clear ones because actually you can see the roots. I just had this one ready, and so when you have, be sure to get your potting mix, put it in here, and just spray some water like from the sink, and just make sure that it's wet all the way through. So like this one, I put my finger in there and it's wet all the way through. It's not sopping wet, so like when I squeeze. I don't know if you can tell, but there's just a little bit of water in there when I squeeze, and that's kind of like the consistency you want, because seeds they really like that. They don't want it to be too wet. I mean, I can squeeze 1 or 2 drops, so it's probably a little more wet than it probably should be, but it's been outside. And so once it's wet from all the way through, get yourself a marker, so like these guys, because you're going to need to mark and label it anyway. And what I do is I just kind of stick a hole in it and I twirl it around to make a hole big enough. Let me do that here in a second.